You were born into this world as a lovely human, where in this world of Teyvat, you embark on a journey to take care and watch out for your fellow humans. Your aim is to ascend to a divine throne to protect your kin against the force from beyond, as a god to possess absolute mastery over the elements.
Whoa!
So, who wants to become a god?
Me! So you'll become a god too? Yes, let's become gods together. So, this is what it meant to become a god. No, stay alive, my friend. Don't go. Thank you. No, for everything. I wish you all the best as a human. Farewell. No! Welcome to the 10.5th episode of Deep Dive, where you can dive deep into all the based reasons as to why being a god is the last thing you would want. By god in this video, I would mean Archons. Yep, it's the oversaturated topic of our beloved Archons once again. It can't be helped because Natlan is ramping up towards the climax part of the story. Not to mention, the 5.1 trailer dropped every suspense element you can imagine. New characters, best girl introductions, Avenger-style fight sequence, goated harbinger of all time, and the Archon raising the stakes in the spotlight. Oh boy, we might as well crown this trailer for being the best among the X.1 update versions. Hopefully the Archon quest that comes with it is delivered well. The linking of the Archon quest with the World quest has been a great twist for us and the Genshin lore community. I can't wait to see how Hoyoverse cooks the entire Natlan story. Let's just hope they don't go too far with the pyro, because this is technically the last region where a Gnosis is being contested. Speaking of Gnosis, the last time we got leads for the pyro Gnosis was when Mavuika and Capitano had a confrontation, the latter insisting that
since the oath made 5 centuries ago remains unfulfilled, what use is the Gnosis in your hands?
Mavuika then fires back, stating that
I don't know what you mean.
most would already know that this response implied that Mavuika is hiding a secret, kind of like Farina in the Fontaine Archon quest when Arlecchino interrogated her about the Hydro Gnosis. But with the recent 5.1 trailer, it opened up with the confirmation that the Gnosis can resolve the crisis at a huge price. We know that this crisis is time-gated. Mavuika even stated that Natlan only has a year left before total devastation. And upon our arrival to Natlan, we have witnessed increasing abyssal activity. The Ode of Resurrection failed for the first time, which made Mavuika suspend the pilgrimage. Then the Night Kingdom is invaded, the Waya being corrupted, and it's only a matter of time before the sacred flame runs out. The Pyro Gnosis holds a huge value for Natlan. For one, it's a crucial part of Mavuika's plan to resolve the crisis. 2, Capitano is after it due to some personal motive outside the affairs of the Tarita. Lastly, since the Fatui is involved again, the Traveler will have to do whatever it takes to withhold the last Gnosis from their antagonistic plans. Not only is this particular Gnosis heavily contested, but this also concerns a no ordinary Gnosis plot due to the world building of Natlan, and the 5.1 trailer just gave us the lore piece that we needed. Claim your name and forge your weapons, Denalists. The court is now in session in rebuilding Natlan's system from no system. You get it? No system? No system? Does Natlan have no seasons for jokes? Okay, that might have been a stretch, but I'm being real here. Natlan's system is worth talking about. You could name many things conventional to Genshin and you'll be surprised that Natlan has subverted it. Battle themes? Natlan put vocals in it. City? Oh, we don't do that in Natlan. We have 6 tribe settlements if that counts. Ley lines? We don't have much, but how does Night Kingdom sound? Motif? We got an anthem. Seriously, almost everything in this place feels different. And if you think the lore would also be different, you're right on the mark, baby. It has all sorts of interconnected world quests that tie together with the Archon quest, from our trusty little cutie patootie Saurian to the enigmatic status of Archonhood. Natlan so far is the only nation that had records of their many Archons. Before Mavuika became the Pyro Archon we know today, there have been tens or hundreds or even thousands of Pyro Archons that came before her. You wouldn't see this in the other nations because the newer Archons were chosen successors who in some way were familiars of their predecessors. But Natlan was an exception. If you play the world quests, you all must have known by now that xbalanque was Natlan's first ever pyro Archon. This part, however, was a little bit convoluted. The thing is, the first set of 7 Archons were only established after the Archon War, where conflict dominated Teyvat with all the gods fighting for the 7 divine thrones. This took place before the Cataclysm and after the dragon's defeat by the hands of the Primordial One and its shades. How or why this war started is still unknown, but what's peculiar about this part of the timeline is that this overlapped with xbalanque's ascension as Natlan's very first pyro Archon. Moreover, this was also the time where xbalanque defeated the likely pyro sovereign, Xilonen, which to me was surprising considering that by the time the Archon War started, the defeated dragons had already gone underground or in various regions of the Dark Sea. Xilonen, on the other hand, still got his hands on Natlan, having killed the last messenger from the past. Apart from Xilonen being such an immovable object, I was also surprised to see that he killed this last messenger from the past, but that also made me think. Last messenger? From the past? I'm not sure if what I'm thinking is right, but this could only imply one of the 4 shades or the citlali, because they are the ones I recall who existed around the same time the dragons fled after their defeat. I'd flip out if that last messenger is a citlali, because this would complete the puzzle piece in my previous video of why Natlan barely has any citlali presence. But going back, timeline discussion isn't my main point here. We are actually focusing on the deaths involved, namely Xilonen and whoever the last messenger is. We know that xbalanque ascended to Archonhood after slaying Xilonen and was revived, but how much of a merit was that? You see, the dragon sovereigns and the heavenly principles already hold deep enmity against each other. This war probably went for as long as anyone could imagine. Now, if you're the primordial one, the progenitor god hailing from beyond the stars, you'll have your OCD triggered after seeing that this one patch of land you're trying to invade is still standing strong and is still protected by this gigachad you forgot to lock into. Now, if a human, just a random creation of yours, defeated this gigachad, of course, Celestia Corporation would be happy that they beat the competitor. And as a higher up in that corporation, you give this human a salary raise and get him promoted. That is exactly the case with xbalanque. But the twist is, he didn't just gain the title of Pyro Archon, he also gained the ability to be revived. You see, the elements in Genshin aren't just your water is wet and fire is hot. These elements have special properties, being repeatedly referred to as something that can be used against the abyss. But at the same time, the concentrated form of these elements also pose a threat to humans, which is why after Celestia usurped the authorities, the human realm and the light realm eventually merged into one. It was only after the 7 Archons rose into position that these elements became diluted, when they gained authority over it with the help of the ideals of the heavenly principles. The Noxxis, however, are different. Currently, we know that it's created with the remains of the 3rd Descender, but in the wiki, it is stated that it's a reward to the gods who emerged victorious from the Archon War. I believe that this is also different from the concept of the Divine Throne itself. Now, on the topic of the Archon War, this is where things go different in Natlan. There wasn't anything recorded about gods fighting each other for the throne of Pyro, except obviously everything that happened in Natlan over the course of time since it's the most war-torn region. It's almost as if it's unanimous or decisive that xbalanque becomes the Pyro Archon, having defeated Xilonen. Not to mention the fact that xbalanque was also an ordinary human, who just happened to ascend to the throne after the turn of events, which is another exception unique to Natlan considering the Archons we know of before and currently are elemental beings or existing lesser gods who can take human forms. Everything that followed for Natlan was history, from xbalanque borrowing Renova's powers to establish the rules of war up until the events that will happen in the upcoming 5.1 Archon quest. Putting these side by side with the trailer, it becomes a treasure trove of theory information that blazes a trail in understanding the Archon War, what it means to be the Archon, what the Noxxis really are, and last but not the least, what are the Descenders. Oh yeah, Denalists, we are overclocking our theory engine and it's gonna be heating up. So let's begin with the Archon War. Many gods fought against each other primarily for the Divine Thrones, the notable ones featuring the known original Archons, the Karabian in Mondstadt, Havria in Liyue, and Orobashi in Inazuma, to name a few. This particular era was bloody and devastating, arguably even more than the events of the Cataclysm. A lot of gods also died throughout this war, but it's with these physical deaths that caused a lot of detriment. The thing is, when a god dies, their remains don't just dissipate into nothing, and it's actually discouraged for anyone to come into contact with these. Only gods of equal level and the Archons are capable of dealing with it. Knowledge about its effects became known in the manga through the Archon residue that featured Kale, where she was being experimented on. It's still unimaginable that she had to go through so much pain for that, but you have been strong, Kole. You definitely make Amber proud even until now. Going back to the manga, Dotori was supposed to be working on a cure. Kole that time was suffering from the condition we know as Eleazar, which made her quite the perfect subject for the Mad Doctor. After she's been infused with Archon residue, her negative emotions are known to go haywire, having been fueled by the Archon residue when she's being mistreated, allowing her to feel extreme hatred and desire for vengeance against the people and the gods. The Archon residue is also known to feed on someone's negative emotions, and it could grant its host a tempting vision of a situation where they have control over it. The trauma lingered even after Sino sealed it away. All of this was because of a god's remains, who was left as fragments of the Archon War. A while ago, I did imply that Natlan's side of the Archon War was a bit convoluted. But what if I told you that Natlan actually had an equivalent to this? Yes, it was the exact moment xbalanque had slain Xilonen and ascended as Natlan's first pyro Archon. Take a look at that! We got an even bigger fish, dragon in the sea. In that exact moment of xbalanque's Archonhood, we got ourselves the perfect specimen to classify as Archon residue, a remains of even a greater god. But for Natlan, we actually know this as Flame Lord's Blessing, which was discussed in the World Quest as a mark related to Xilonen that grants them the power of ancient dragons. The wiki continues by stating that, however, it is far greater than what modern saurians can bear. The Wyam in the Night Kingdom also reject this power, and thus refuse these saurians. As they grow, the power will become more uncontrollable and tear at their bodies, eventually killing them or driving them insane. Sounds familiar? It shares the same natural effect as the Archon residue that was infused in Kale. But what's worse for Natlan is that there wasn't anyone who was implied to have sealed Xiloquatl's remains. It was just there simultaneously as xbalanque gets revived and becomes Archon. I do believe that Natlan is where Xiloquatl was slain, due to it being a cursed place. But Natlan has so many cursed places, to be honest, like Marijavari being implied to be one. But eventually, Natlan was built by xbalanque and his followers, implying that it's their dwelling place, until it became so cursed that the Saurian Relics Association wouldn't want anything to do with it. It wasn't known if that's also the exact place where xbalanque passed away, but all we know is that he disappeared into the sacred flame. Now, thanks to him, there are many more humans who followed him in being the Pyro Archon due to the rules he established. I honestly think he's also the Lord of the Night because the Night Kingdom also has a huge part to play in maintaining this rule. So in every instance a new Archon ascends, this new Archon is granted all memories and knowledge about the entirety of Natlan through the sacred flame. It's all been like that up until Mavuika, who we get to know to be in quite an ordeal in the 5.1 trailer. You see, near the end of the trailer, you will hear this.
Natlan must pay the price, and only Mavuika's death can clear the debt.
Okay, that's quite ominous. Like, what did our new Mommy Archon do? Turns out, the issue wasn't her. It was Natlan. This entire region is the one paying the price. But for what? As much as I want to go on a tangent to explain this in full, I'll just go straight to the point. Natlan must pay the price for its war and all the filthy deaths that took place in this nation. To piece things together, all of the dead in Natlan are now after Mavuika. She must be sacrificed to clear the debt of this nation. I actually like the use of the word debt here. Like, Natlan is giving hints with all these transactional terms like exchange with the Malipo name, price, and now debt. Like, Natlan has some sort of account. But what if they actually do have some sort of account? And we get to link this all the way back to the first few patches in Genshin. Version 1.3, more specifically in Xiao's trailer. As we all know, Xiao is the remaining Yaksha who fought all those long years for Zhongli, even dating back to the years of the Archon War. The other Yakshas either turned to one another to death or went insane. This is with the same effect of all the deaths and the gods' remains left in the Archon War. But in his trailer, we do get to hear this.
Price I pay for eons of slaughter, ephemeral circumstance, perpetual agony. This is nothing new to me. These severed karmic binds.
Karmic binds. Karma. Natlan has a karmic account. This is what is after mavuika. This is also the umbrella term for the deaths, the Archon residue, and the remains of the gods. An interesting to point out here is that the Night Kingdom is where people go when they pass away or have fallen during the Night Warden Wars. During Act 2, Malco had to guide us from these malevolent spirits. And if you remember the escape sequence in the 2.7 Chasm story quest involving Xiao, you should notice that they look similar. That is because they are both manifestations of karma. Now, since Natlan is the nation of war where many people expect it to be all bloodshed with so many casualties, the Sacred Flame also recorded those parts and the memories of the land over time. In a similar way, the karma that originated from xbalanque gets passed on and passed on to many more Archons, up until it reaches the breaking point with mavuika. Yeah, being an Archon ain't so pleasant, yeah? In fact, the same set of karma have also been afflicting the other Archons we know and love. Heck, even Farina was afflicted to an extent. Since Natlan is also the nation where a lot of inheritances happen with the ancient name, we could also conclude that mavuika inherited all the cumulative karma from the previous Pyro Archons. Now, in the 5.1 trailer, why does it seem like Capitano has mavuika living in his head rent-free? I wouldn't say it's because of his unofficial L from their fight, but I actually think that he's coming from the same place as Arlecchino in solving their respective region's crisis. The thing is, everything that we see in the trailer isn't Capitano wreaking havoc in Natlan. He's actually trying to nag mavuika to act on something, since remember, he isn't buying her plan anymore, and everyone is already becoming aware that it's taking so long. He knows the secret of the ley lines, and he seems to have found a solution to solve the crisis in Natlan. Apart from him acquiring the final gnosis for the Tsarita, he also knew that he needed the gnosis to execute his solution out of his own goodwill. That seems to check out since Capitano has a well-respected reputation. This trade should be a win for both sides. It's just that mavuika has her own plan with the gnosis that couldn't agree with Capitano. That is why they fought, and now he's pressuring mavuika to make a decision with the gnosis. Now, let's try to understand the situation from the side of mavuika. What exactly is her plan? Well, her plan is waiting for the traveler's arrival. Seriously. But come to think of it, if you are mavuika and you know that your nation's been fighting the Abyss, and even though your people have been warding them off, it seems like you're still losing. How can you come up with an out-of-the-box solution? Well, you'd actually have two choices. 1. Hand the gnosis over to Capitano and let him cook. 2. Wait for the traveler and include him in your own gamer master plan. It's obvious that she chose option 2, which is evident with her sudden interest after seeing that the traveler has exceptional immunity against the Abyss. She even includes him straight away in her plan and has commissioned Xilonen to forge an ancient name for him. Speaking of Xilonen though, her teaser has dropped and surprisingly, it had some juicy lore for us. That's right, the traveler's ancient name has been revealed, and it's Muangozo, which translates to guidelines. Gosh, all of this is starting to line up. You have this established rule where anyone could be Pyro Archon and you could be resurrected by winning against the Abyss. Then you have Capitano wanting to destroy the rules to create a new one with his proposed solution. Now you have the traveler bearing the ancient name of guidelines, which is basically synonymous to rules. I think I know what is up here. Mavuika really did have a use for the gnosis. Haha, suck on that, Capitano, you ain't getting this one. For now. The thing is, gnosis are known for uses that could be achieved beyond human limitations. You have Zhongli creating the entire monopolized teyvat currency, A trying to make use of it to power Inazuma to no avail, Rukkhadevara using it to power Sumeru's high technology Akasha, and Egeria using it to commit the sin of turning Oceanids into humans using the primordial sea. For Natlan, we know that this was used by xbalanque to create the rules in combination with the borrowed power from Murnova. If that's the case, then it makes sense that mavuika would use it in a similar way of creating rules. It's just that it's either the traveler becoming the new rule or the traveler earning the right to establish a new rule. But either way, that's gonna be an interesting twist. Now, just a couple of things to add. I don't think mavuika will die. You can see in the 5.1 trailer that she's getting a power-up, and she's about to do a Saitama punch on the Abyss-ridden sky. She wouldn't use the gnosis since it's very likely that she will use it to supplement the finishing of the ancient name. Rather, she will sacrifice something bigger, like all the items she exchanged for additional power to get the traveler and his team out of the Night Kingdom. She will sacrifice the old rules and the memories of Natlan, because there's gonna be new rules and Capitano wants to destroy the old rules. I think this is a great move for mavuika, knowing that she'll gain immense power in the process, and after that, everybody wins. The Traveler wins by saving Natlan with his ancient name, Mavuika wins by resolving the crisis with her plan, Capitano wins by getting the Gnosis, and we win by getting the Pyro Traveler. But we will see how it goes when version 5.1 comes live. In the meantime, give yourselves a high five because there's always more to discover with Deep Dive. I'm Mercanique, and this is my verdict. Thanks for watching.